Larry Dix.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for coming by today.
Yeah, good to be here. Quick trip for me up here.
It was a pleasure. How long did it take?
An hour and about 12 minutes to land. That was from Louisa, Virginia to Teterboro.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you usually fly a lot throughout the year?
I do on the short stuff. I don't take the long stuff. It's too expensive to fly great distances. But the stuff that's very quick like this, yeah, it's worth it. You can get here so much. It's an 8-hour drive and an hour, say in 10 minutes. That's a huge saving of time because I put a massive value on my time. So I encourage everybody to think that way, by the way.
Have you always thought like that?
No, absolutely not. I didn't when I was younger because like y'all, you have a lot of time and then things start getting, I call it, compression of time. And you start realizing, if I've got 20 years left, it's going to go fast. So I just so my value of my time is $4,800 an hour.
Wow.
So I do that as $80 a minute. So everything I think about is wasting time. So if I can use that as an incentive to keep me on track, that's what I do. Because obviously money, does motivate a lot of people, but it just gives me some sort of tangible understanding of what my time is worth.
How did you get to that number?
Because I've always wanted to make not revenue, but to put in my bank $10 million a year, which is a huge goal. And if you do 4,800 times 2,080, it's about $10 million.
That's wild, actually.
Yeah. I tell everybody the same thing. Like you should put so much value because the standard work year is 2,080 hours is kind of the general rule. And so if you want to make $10 million, if you want to make $1 million, you got to back into that number and you should start applying that because it just keeps it on the forefront. Hey, I may never make it $10 million. What if I make 8? Still not bad, right?
Yeah. I want you to walk me through that a bit. When did you first implement that rule in your life? Or that goal, I should say.
As far as the 10 million?
Yeah.
Well, it kind of goes farther back. So I'm 15 years old, pretty ambitious kid, a pretty disciplined kid always. I learned a lot of that when I wrote my first book. And I did because I didn't know. And then I bought a dog, a Cocker Spaniel of all animals. I don't know why, but I always loved Cocker Spaniel. And I named it Million. So I'm 15 years old, 1970s, and I'm thinking about being a millionaire. And it wasn't like I came from money. We were just a normal middle class family, but there was something about it. And truthfully, I didn't know what that meant. We didn't have access to information like you do now. I mean, if you got lucky, you got a newspaper delivered to your house. If you were really fortunate, your parents might get a magazine delivered or you went to the library. And so we spent a lot of time in the library. And I think the thing that really got me was I saw a 911 Turbo and Porsche. And I just saw this car and it was such an expensive car. Back then it was probably 40 grand, and I just kind of clicked for me. And then all my life I was like, when I said million, I wanted to be a business guy. We didn't know what the word entrepreneur meant. That word didn't exist back then. You just wanted to be a business guy, right? And that's where it started for me. And then I started just driving towards that. And once I got to that number, it kind of meant less to me. And even 10 million doesn't mean that much to me. It doesn't create a value for me. It's just something to aspire for. If I make it, great. If I don't, I'm fine with that. So I'm going to tell you 15 years old is when I started thinking that mindset of wanting to make that kind of money.
That's intriguing just because what did life look like back then for you? You said you were a middle-class family. And when I look at a middle-class family nowadays, at least social media, it's very small-minded in the sense of there's not many kids thinking like you at 15. There's not many people pushing to want to do more. By the time they're 18, they're already giving up on life. Like, oh my gosh, I haven't made it like these kids on Instagram with the Lamborghinis and flying jets.
Yeah.
So where does that mentality come from?
So I think, some of it has to do with your parents. Like my parents did fine. We were good kids, but we had 3 pairs of jeans, a pair of tennis shoes and, some t-shirts or shirts. Back then people didn't have as many t-shirts. And that's just what life was. I didn't really see anything of what money was until I moved to Austin, Texas. We moved from a small town called Odom. My dad got a job working up there and I went to a school. I had 32 kids in my class. I go to a school that's got 400 kids and there were kids driving Corvettes. I'm 15-year-old kid. And I'm like, wow. So this is, and I remember going to this one friend of mine. His name was Doug. And we went to his house. His house was the biggest house I'd ever seen in my life. And I just all of a sudden started going, wow. And that's kind of where it just started fueling this. Like I could see it. I had access to libraries and more information. And that's really what it did. But I mean, even then, when we moved to Austin, we were very much a middle class family. But my mom and dad were extremely hard workers. So my dad grew up dirt floor poor, lived under people's houses, beat like a drum till he was 16 years old. I'm talking closed fisted, but he always wanted to do better. He wanted to break that cycle. And so I see this man graduate from college when I'm 12 years old. And it just gave me this understanding, like, if you put your head down, drive hard, you can do better. And he broke the cycle. He never beat me or my brother. He stayed married to the same woman for 57 years until her passing. And, it just kind of showed me that. So a lot of it has to do with just your, who you grew up with around and stuff like that, and parents.
That's powerful. Earlier off camera, we were talking a bit about your marriage. Mm-hmm. You've been married 42 years, 42. You said?
Yeah.
Do you think seeing your mom and dad stay together played a role in your life and how you viewed relationships? Because I know relationships aren't easy.
No, they're hard. I don't know, because my story's unusual because I'm 19 years old, growing up in Texas, right? I'm at homecoming. So I went back. I never went to college, was working at a lumberyard, and I go back to my hometown, which is only like 30 miles away maybe. And I see this girl standing. I can still see her to this day. She's sitting at the end zone, at the fence of the end zone. I'm at the concession stand, and I look and I'm like, I know her because she went to school with me, but we didn't really know each other. So I made a point to just go up and talk to her. And I saw her and started talking to her. I'm like, wow, I liked her. Woke up the next morning, and I lived in Austin, Texas. I opened up the phone book, and I started calling every green in the phone book until she answered and her dad answered. And where I'm going with this is that, yeah, I didn't have a clue. You get lucky sometimes. I always say it was divine intervention that I married her. I was a wild Indian. She was a very calm, very sweet girl, very nice and stuff like that. So our opposites work well. And I think Cheryl and I now, looking back 42 years, we're just very committed people. Mm-hmm. And we always kind of wanted the same things. I think people don't put enough value into, like, I call it pushing the sled in the same direction. You got to be on the same sled, and you got to be going in the same direction. Because if you're going one way and she's going another, odds are that's probably not going to work out. And these are things I've learned now. At the time, you're infatuated. We got married within 9 months. And
wow.
Yeah, 9 months. I met her October 22nd, 1983, and we got married August 11th, 1984. That's how quick it was. And we never talked about marriage. And I actually proposed to her, and she's like, yeah, no, I don't know. And she actually told me yes the next day.
Really?
Yeah. So, a lot of it's luck. I think a lot of it is, again, just you got to find people that are going in the same direction. I mean, if you want to marry a screaming liberal and you're a screaming conservative, probably not going to work. Mm-hmm. You got to find people that are, both this or both that, or willing to adjust. And I think we don't put enough emphasis now of letting people get married young, because you think about, you're 26 years old. Well, you've had a lot of life already. Cheryl and I were 19 and 21. We didn't have a lot of life, so we grew up together, and that helps a lot too. So,
do you think that could also be a falling out of a relationship? Growing up, people grow apart.
Oh, yeah, I think you can. Yeah, for sure. That's why I was saying you got to kind of have the same basic values. Cheryl's ambition in life was to be a mom. My ambition in life was to be a business guy. So it just worked out well. She, I tell everybody the greatest gift that Cheryl ever gave me, and this is a great gift, is she allowed me to be me. Mm-hmm. She didn't marry me to try to change me. She just married knowing who I was, because I had convinced her at 20 years old that I was going to be a millionaire by the time I was 30. I didn't make that, but I sold her on that idea that, and I had a lot of, chivalry. I mean, I took and, open her car door. I'm still open her car door for her to this day. I take care of her. I look out for her and stuff like that. And I think that's important. We don't put a lot of emphasis on that kind of stuff, but it's the little stuff, that really adds up to being big, because you're going to have problems, and one's going to be financial. Other's going to be relationship with each other and your children. I mean, those are three very complex situations, and you better be willing to stay together and to push through. And don't quit. It's easy to quit. I mean, it's just so easy to quit. It takes a lot to live with your spouse when you don't like them.
I love that you said that, because I grew up in a family. My parents are still married. They've been married all my life, 26 years. And my older brother's 32. Sorry if he's listening. I don't know. He's 32 or 31. They've been married my entire existence. I don't know what it is to not have a loving family, thankfully to them. But we go back to what I see online. That's not what it is.
No, and I don't know why that is. I think because there's too much information. It's too easy to be distracted by all the noise. And I think you've got to be willing to turn that kind of stuff off, because comparison is the thief of joy, right?
Yeah.
And you just got to stay away from that kind of stuff. I mean, it's like flying in here today. You know, you fly into Teterboro, somebody's always got a bigger jet. Somebody's got a nicer car. You know, I got picked up in a Suburban. Some guy in front of me was picked up in an Escalade. You know, whatever. You just cannot continue to compare yourself. And that happened to me. I was in Pennsylvania. I was flying in a small plane. We were the only guys out there. They actually rolled a red carpet up to the plane. I was like, oh, look at this. I was with at that time, he's probably 20-year-old son. And we get out of the plane. I'm like, man, look at me. I'm all like, and I kind of had a little cockiness to me, you know, in my head. And I come back and there's a Falcon 900 EX sitting beside this thing, which is a 3-engine jet, 5 times the size. And I remember to this day, I'm like, somebody's always got a bigger jet. And it just kind of, at that point, I don't compare like that. I'm just like, yeah, whatever.
So you said your philosophy is do what's right. Where does that belief come from?
Well, it's Christian based. Most people don't realize that. If you look at my logo at Apex, in 2017, I changed that from the original, and it's a reverse refresh, and it actually points upward, which means I gave my business to God at that point. And I still work hard at that. It's not always perfect and stuff like that, but do what's right is a biblical principle. And I do that, for me, is that it tells me all the time, like, you're playing the long ball here, not the short game. You know, I've been taken advantage of by people, but I'm always doing what's right. And I just let it go, because at the end of the day, I sleep good at night. And it came to me. I mean, I start this business called Apex Trust, and I've literally had the business a couple of months, and I'm like, do what's right. I'm going to start putting that on everything. And I don't know if it was divine intervention or God just said, you know, which I guess same, but I was just like, yeah. And I was like, wow, I'm going to do that. And I started, and people were like, wow, that's kind of weird. Now, 26 years later, everybody expects it. It's on everything I own, all my trucks, everything that's Apex related. Do what's right.
That's really cool. This is going to be a silly question, but I think it's important to go a little bit more in depth. What does your faith mean to you? Everything.
That's the only way I'm getting out of here. You know, I read my Bible every morning. I pray every morning. That's the first thing I do. I get out of bed. I put both feet on the ground and I pray to God every single day. And I've only been doing that probably 6 months or so. And then I go out and read my Bible, because look, man, we ain't getting out of here alive, right? Something's on the other side. And as I read more and try to understand as best I can, I think people go in with this reading the Bible, they're going to understand it. And I just pray to God, like, hey, give me the right information at the time. I mean, I'm reading John right now, and I read this stuff, and Jesus is praying to his disciples and stuff like that. Steve, I don't know that I understand it. You know, it's hard to think that there's this guy comes down from heaven, lives on earth, dies, comes back to life, and then goes back. Well, for guys like me, that's very difficult to understand. Like, if it was Star Trek and you went in there and they beamed you up, got it, right? I got that figured out. But this is all faith-based, right? You're have faith on something you can't see. But I'm always just striving, do what's right, reading my Bible, trying to be physically conditioned, trying to be strong mentally, physically, spiritually, and just trying to drive that forward. I mean, nothing's wrong, nothing bad's going to come out of it, that's for sure. But I just believe it now. All my grandkids go to a Christian school. My kids went to the same school. And I push everything I can in that direction. And I don't hide. I used to be a little more cautious about it. Now I don't care.
Cautious? How come?
People look at you funny. You know, they're saying, oh, what do you mean? You know, it's the whole thing that just people just look at you weird, like you're believing in something that doesn't exist. There's nothing you can do for me now that I'm older that can convince me that there's not some sort of higher power. You're too perfect, Steve, to not be built by something bigger than a single cell. A single cell. It just doesn't happen. I mean, your brain function, your heart beats billions of times. And just think about this computer that you have between your ears. So I live on a farm in Virginia, and I mean, just walk around and watch how the trees grow, and, watch a baby calf be born. That mom didn't take Lamaze classes. She pops that thing out. She goes in circles. She takes care of the afterbirth. The baby starts getting up within literally minutes and doesn't just start walking off into the field. It goes straight to the mother's udders. How does that work? So I just look at everything on such a deep level now that for me, it's real easy. There's no way you'd ever convince me differently. No way, like impossible.
That's an interesting perspective. I love that I've had the opportunity to hear so many different perspectives from my guests now, because one of the most important things as I grow older is growing my relationship with God. So that's just a question I always love to ask my guests and hear more on it and hear their stories and just side of things, honestly. That was really cool.
I think it's good. I mean, I love it. I try to talk to my grandkids about it. I talk to my, obviously my wife, and I talk about it a lot, and all my kids. So,
that's beautiful.
And anybody who'll listen.
Yeah. So most people dream about starting a business. Mm-hmm. Why do you think most of them fail?
Well, I don't think most people dream that. I think maybe they think about it, but they don't dream it. Well, I think some of it's bad luck. I mean, there's a reason why I think the rule is 50% fell in the first 5 years and 80 fell the next 5. I mean, it's a small number. Most of the time it's probably bad ideas, poor execution. I mean, I don't think there's anything. I mean, I think there's an economic issue that can happen at times. There were a lot of people made a lot of money during COVID. Who would have ever thought? Prior to that, you had the 2008 housing crisis. I mean, there's going to be things that happen. I mean, I like to think some of it is that people quit because they go in thinking it's easy, and social media makes it out to seem like it's easy. It is literally the hardest job in the world. Mentally, physically, the whole bit. Now, there are, obviously watermen, there are some jobs that are brutal, but it's just because it takes such a massive toll, not only on you mentally, but physically as well. And it's hard. I've never really thought about why most people fail. That's a really, really good question. But I do think a lot of it is just people quit. As soon as they hit the bump, which, by the way, you're going to hit, they just like, oh, I thought it was going to be easier, and they quit, and then they just give up and move on. And you got to have strong determination, period. Like, you better be a determined man or woman if you're going to take on this beast, because it's hard, because you really have no control over anything. Nothing.
I'm kind of taking a second to think about what you just said, because it's so truthful. I mean, I just started my entrepreneur journey, or becoming an entrepreneur, last August. About a year and a half now, which is insane, because I went into it with the mentality, this is going to be so easy, because of what I've seen on social media, also because of what people are showing me. They make it seem, oh, I'm a successful entrepreneur, things are always going to be easy. Becoming an entrepreneur has been the hardest thing I could have ever done. And the way I did it, I just up and quit my job and said, let's do it. And I don't recommend anybody else does that. I mean, I still have ups and downs. I'm way better at it a year and a half into it. But oh my gosh, do not put yourself through hell, honestly, guys. If you're listening out there, keep that 9 to 5, keep security, and then grow your side hustle, business, whatever it is on the side. There's plenty of hours in the day to do both.
And be something you're good at. Don't be like, oh, I'm going to follow my dream or whatever. There's whatever that means to people. I mean, you got to find out something you're good. I'm a really good sales guy, right? So I kind of built on sales. I understood that. I got very lucky to run manufacturing facilities. But people get this thing about work-life balance, and I'm going to be able to control my hours, and that's total crap. I mean, I get up at 4:00 every day, and I'm looking at stuff and trying to figure things out. Cheryl and I are working Sunday afternoons trying to make sure things are coming up. You've got payroll every week. You've got taxes, workers' comp. I mean, there are so many things that are coming at you all the time. You got employees that you don't like. You got employees that don't like you. You're struggling to make payroll. I mean, they want you to spend money, but they don't realize that you can't make any money spending that money. And it's just, I mean, it's a lonely job. I mean, because you are on this thing by yourself. No one that's out there that thinks you're doing this is great have no idea what you're going through. Most people don't. I mean, depending on what your parents do, they may not know. And you don't even know yet because you're so early in the process. And by the way, the problems you're having today, you're going to have them 10 years from now. It's not like they go, and now some of them get easier and you are able to fix a few things, but the numbers get bigger, you know, and, you know, we love to say the analogy is like, you know, there's a guy running a $100 million company or a $5 million company. If the crap is hitting the floor out of the can, it doesn't matter how big your can is. It all stinks, right? And it's hard and it's real. If you can't make $1,000 payroll or $100,000 payroll, it's a problem. It doesn't matter the size. You got problems. And I can tell you what, I've driven before and had to pick up checks to cover payroll. It's a scary feeling. Then you got to walk in and go, yeah, everything's great. You're like, whew, I survived that one today. Hope next week ain't as bad, you know? So that's the stuff, and it never gets any easier. I think you just it's like, I remember the first time Cheryl wrote a check for $50,000 for a supplier. She's like, oh my gosh, now we write $200,000 checks. She doesn't even think about it. You know, you just get used to the number. But it's still, if you don't have the money, it doesn't matter. So
something you said stuck with me, and it's the hours. People think I'm going to go follow my dream and I'm going to work for 4 hours a day. And then I'll get to slack off, relax, do whatever it is. If it's Pilates, if it's basketball, what you pick. And that is probably the biggest lie being told to entrepreneurs today. Because
the only thing you get to do is you may be able to do it during the day, but you're still going to make it up at the end of the day. I mean, I work out every day and I spend, you know, several hours doing this kind of stuff, but I still have to get my work done. You know, I'm still on calls late in the evenings and doing stuff like that and getting on things and checking emails. And, you know, I was responding to emails last night at 9:30, you know, as I'm sitting there in bed. I mean, that's the stuff. If you have a very high sense of urgency, which is, I think, lacking, you know, we talked about that earlier about entrepreneurs, is you need to have a high sense of urgency. Like everything needs to be a priority, and that's hard to do. Respond to your emails, respond to them quickly, respond to texts quickly, respond to people quickly. If you owe them money, call them back. That's the responsibility. You know, I can't tell you how many times I slow pay people, but I call them back and they're like, wow, thanks for calling. Nobody else does. Yeah, we'll help you out. No problem. Appreciate your communication. Nobody talks about that kind of stuff. Pick up the dadgum phone and call people. I mean, you owe them the money.
Yeah.
Don't hide, because I know because I have people owe me money all the time. If they don't respond, my brain goes like this. Okay, he's not going to pay me. What's he going to do? Okay, do I need to file liens? What am I doing? I'm checking job sites. Everything gets bad. He picks up the call. Yeah, I got a problem. A little slow. The weather. Okay, great. When do you think you'll pay me? Probably about 2 weeks. Check back with me next Thursday. Perfect. Thank you. Call him back next Thursday. Yep, I'm going to be able to cover it. I'm good. Don't call me. I get fiery. Like,
Where does that fiery side come from?
You know, that's a great question. My mother.
Yeah.
I thought it was my dad. My dad's a fiery kind of guy, but my tenacity and just push, like me and my brother both are this way. He's probably a little more fiery than I am, but this intensity that we have, it's our mother. I mean, she was just a fireball, man. And she, like, my brother and I, to the day she died, we were perfect.
Really?
Oh, yeah. We never did anything wrong. You know, never. And so for her, she was the one that just instilled that. But then, you know, watching my dad graduate from college, you know, things like that, it just builds this thing. But yeah, for sure, Mom. No doubt. She was fiery. And if you got on her bad side, whoo.
Yeah,
don't go against the family. Like if you did something to me or Cheryl or one of the kids or one of the grandkids or something like that, yeah, you wanted her on your side because she would take you out. She was a very, very aggressive woman. But sweet, loving, did, you know, child protective services forever and did all this kind of stuff. Loved children, did take the shirt off her back for people, but get on her wrong side, it was get ready, buddy, because she's coming at you hard and relentless.
Yeah, I could definitely relate. I have a Dominican mom, so
there you go.
I mean, and it was funny because this happened about 2 years ago, but I'm a person that your tonality affects me. So if you're speaking at me aggressive, my mood's going to change. And my mom was always speaking loud. And to me as a young kid, it was aggressive. So I'd always be upset with her. But I respected her all the time, of course. And come to find out, it was just because she was deaf. She needed hearing aids.
Apparently that's happening to me because my kids are always like, man, Dad, I don't think you can hear anymore. I'm like, well, that's why I'm talking so loud.
She came home one day and it was the day she got the hearing aids put in. And she was like, hey, Steve, I was like, oh my God, what's happening? I was like, you could finally relate. I was like, oh my goodness, my mom wasn't being mean all these years. She just couldn't hear. She didn't know how loud she was being. That was probably one of the funniest interactions.
Yeah, we were hunting with some guys down in North Carolina a couple of months back, and this guy was always talking so loud, and he's like, I don't have my hearing aids in. I'm like, oh, so that makes, because he was a big man. So when he talked loud, it was, and it was like he didn't have his hearing aids in. That's funny.
That's so funny. I want to transition a little bit. Because you said earlier you talked about the Porsche 911 you saw. It was $40,000, which was absurd to me because nowadays the starting rate for cars are $50,000, $60,000. Right, But have you kept that ambition for cars?
Yeah, I didn't get my first 911. I wanted a 911 Turbo S, and I did not get that car till I was 55 years old. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was the first time. I'd had a couple of 911s, probably in my late 40s, but I never got that car till I was 55. So yeah, I race cars. I'm not doing as much now, but race Porsche GT3 Cups. I've got a M5 competition 911 Turbo S. I've got a newer one now. Just got one not too long ago. I've got a Macan. Mm-hmm. So I do. I'm a big race. I love cars. I love fast cars. And I love Porsches. So I race Porsche GT3 Cups, which is an amazing factory-based race car that comes from Porsche. And last year I did 174 miles an hour at the 24-hour Daytona in that car.
Wow.
So we raced door to door with guys going that speed. I passed a guy on the final curve at about 170 miles an hour. Yeah. It's real. Yeah, they're fast cars, but these are real race cars. I mean, they're fully haloed in. There's fire suppression systems. I mean, it's real. Yeah, I love it. I love going fast, and not as much now because I'm older. You don't have the reflexes and stuff. But yeah, I'll take a car out and do 170. It doesn't bother me. Not on the streets, but yes.
Yeah. When did you get into racing?
Oh, I didn't get in until I was about 60, 59. It's an expensive hobby. It's like having planes, boats or, and that kind of stuff. Those are expensive hobbies. I just really was one of those bucket lists, I really kind of just wanted to drive a fast car and really do it. And so it was much later in life. And then I did it for about 2 years, got my racing license. You have to get certified to race cars and stuff like that. And got to race all up and down the Eastern Seaboard for 2 years. It was fun. It was a good time.
I love cars as well, so I would love to do that maybe in the future. Might have to add that to my bucket list.
Yeah, go on my website and check out my car barn where I keep all my cars. I got lifts in there and stuff like that, so I stack them in there. And it's pretty cool. Yeah, that's something I always wanted, and Cheryl allowed me to have it, and so I got one now. So that's where I do a lot of my podcasting and stuff like that is out of that. So it's a really cool backdrop.
That's sick. I gotta check it out. What's something about wealth that nobody tells you until you experience it?
It's overrated.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't really mean much. So wealth is it's a tool. It allows you certain things, allows you to do certain things. But it doesn't mean that much to me. People may think you're driven by that because it's really the access to things that you need. But yeah, it doesn't really mean that much to me anymore. I guess I got a little bit, so it did okay. Because once you get it, it's just as easy. It could go away. So you just don't put that much emphasis. It's almost more of the game of just trying to do bigger and better. But yeah, it doesn't mean much. Because I hang around people that don't make a lot of money. I hang around people that make a lot of money. And I tell everybody saying, if you're an asshole, I don't hang out with you no matter what your level of income is or wealth. I just want to hang out with good people that I can be myself with, that don't judge me about how much money I may have now or how much money I may not have in the future. Because as an entrepreneur, you can go broke. And everybody else just gets another job. We're broke. Like, we're done. We got to go start over. You lose a job, you just go get another job.
Yeah.
So that's why money's again just a tool. That's all it is to me.
What would you do if you had to start over again? What does the next 30 days look like for you?
Well, that's two questions, right? So if I had to start over today, the number one thing I would do is I would forgive myself early and I would forgive myself often. I didn't do a lot of that. I kept carrying a lot of grudges to myself, like you didn't do this or you did this wrong. And the term that I learned this from somebody else, I don't think I made it up, I focused on the gap and not the gain. So I would always want to, that's why I tell people to write books so you can kind of get an idea of what you've done. Because, I see myself when I was, my story of 17 years old, graduating 142 out of 147, no college, guy talked smack to me, really kind of knocked me down for a very short period of time. And then to where I am today, I need to look at running marathons, became a pilot, learned how to speak a second language for a little while, not very good at it anymore, but, just all these things. I read a book every week for a year. I set goals for myself and trying to run and do all these things. And I look at that now and look at all the great things I've done. A marriage of 42 years, 3 healthy kids, 3, kids. I got 9 grandkids, all these things. That's what you should focus on, not the, mess this up. Oh, I wish I would have done this. I had a couple of businesses that didn't do well. I was very broke at certain points, drank too much at some point in my life. Just all these things. You write it all down and you go, wow, yeah, there were some bumps, but man, look how far I've come. And that's why I think I tell everybody, like even you being 26, Megan over here being 21, look at what you've done. That's what you need to look at. Don't look at, your mom doesn't like you, or you don't like your mom, or you got a bad breakup or whatever. Don't focus on that stuff. And be thankful you're healthy. You too take health for granted. That stuff can change tomorrow. And so, yeah, that's a long answer, but yeah, I just enjoy life. It can change quick.
I completely agree with the entire answer, honestly. I wanted to focus a little bit towards the end part because, that was... Let me take a second to really think. Because I feel like so much hit me in the point where I could relate to that. Because obviously we do take health for granted. 100%. That was something I speak to my friends about. And that was a reason why prior to starting the podcast, I started going to the gym every day. I lost my cousin to cancer and he was 21. And I would always think, like, here I am taking my body for granted. But if he was in my position, it kind of messed me up. And then I didn't forgive myself for a long time. So it messed me up for longer than it should have.
Forgive yourself early and often. You have to figure out how to do that. And you got to forgive other people too.
Yeah.
I'm not a grudge holder, but I was a grudge holder to Larry. I talk shit to myself. Man, you suck. I used to, always, my thing is always like, you're such an idiot. I think that in my head. Well, that's not smart. You've heard the term, right? If you spoke to your friends and family the way you speak to yourself, you'd have no friends or family. And we need to spend more time thinking about that kind of stuff. Because we all, Megan does, Steve does, Larry does, we abuse ourselves.
Yeah.
And it's so stupid to do that. Your friend, health is imperative.
Mm-hmm.
Kids 21 years old have heart attacks. They get cancer. They get killed in car wrecks. And so, yeah, that's one thing. Cheryl gets mad at me a little bit. Says, "Oh, you're so kind of pessimistic." I'm like, I'm a realist.
Mm-hmm.
Like things happen. Your mom dies. It's like, oh, that's not good. But it's gonna happen.
Yeah, it's going to happen for everyone one day or another.
But you have to forgive yourself. You got to look at your friend. But, you should use that. I say, defeated or inspired, right? Take that defeat of your friend and try to live the best healthy life you can in his honor.
Exactly.
Go to the gym every day. Don't drink. Don't smoke. Try to eat healthy. Try to do all these kind of things. And I'm a big advocate of that stuff. And later in life, but yeah, do everything you can to be healthy. Why wouldn't you? I don't know. We don't.
No, not even close.
Do, but I preach that to every single person.
Mm-hmm.
Like you need to be healthy. You need to work out every day. Doesn't mean you got to go to the gym and be bulked up. Go walk for 10 minutes every day. My cardiologist said if people would walk 20 minutes 3 days a week, his business would cut in half. But we all think, oh, I got to go to the gym 7 days a week and I got to lift all these weights and I got to get strong. Why? Just be I call it functional fitness.
Mm-hmm.
Every one of us are going to have to figure out when we're 80 years old how to get up and down off a commode, right? A potty, a toilet, whatever you want to call it. That is called functional fitness. You need to pick up your groceries out of the trunk, lean over, pick it up. You have to have basic functional strength. That doesn't mean you got to be able to go out and do 20 pull-ups, just the basic functions of life. And I work out that way every day. Every day.
I think that's so important because even when I started on my fitness journey, I was like, oh, if I can't go 6 days a week, I'm going to be... And then I had to flip the switch on my head. I was like, I just need to be healthy. I just need to be active. And especially for people at my age, I always preach to them, start the routine, start the habits now, because you know better than I do. Once you're 30, 40, 50, the responsibilities just keep piling on. You think you don't have time now to do it.
Yeah, wait till you have kids. Or you have a spouse that doesn't want you to go to the gym because you're not spending time with them, watching something on TV or whatever. And you got to figure out what you do is that's, value of time we talked about earlier is like carving out, we can all find 15 minutes. You can, I used to, when I was a kid back, we'll say Megan's age, and I would do push-ups between commercials. I would just sit in front of the TV, watch something on, well, we all know they have commercials, not as much now, and just sit there and pop out 25, 30 push-ups. Well, if you do that for an hour, you can do a couple hundred push-ups. It's just simple. Do setups, there's things you can do that are very easy, just whether we choose to make it a priority or not.
Yeah, that's funny you say that because it reminds me to when I was 19 in college, and I think this was the height of Fortnite. It was this game that came out, and I was playing it so much, and I've never been addicted to a game like that. But I was on top of all my work, and I'm like, all right, this is the height of my fitness. That's when I first started to get in the gym because I walk into college, and I was this twig, 6'2", probably 150 pounds.
Ooh,
I'm looking at all these guys. I'm like, oh, this is my competition. I need to get in the weight room. So between every game, I was like, it's all right if I play, but I need to be doing push-ups. I need to be doing sit-ups. And then it was religiously always going to the gym. And I got up there. I think my freshman year, I ended up getting to 215 pounds.
Wow, you must have been eating a lot of protein and everything else, right?
Having that unlimited food pass at the dining hall, and I was lucky enough to sign up for a nutrition class my first semester, so I learned so much on what the body actually needs, what type of energy I should be consuming. And in the second week, I'll never forget this, we actually went into the dining hall with my professor, and she broke down pretty much everything that was in the dining hall. And she's like, you want to bulk up? This is what you should be eating. This amount of carbs, fats, whatever it was. And I took that to heart, and I was like, all right, let's go. And within a semester, I remember not coming home at all. I blew up, and I'll never forget this. My buddy, we go to the mall. I have a hoodie on because I started wearing bigger hoodies. I take it off to put on a shirt, and his eyes glow up. He's like, holy... And he couldn't believe it. He was, dude, I've seen you soaking wet, little stick my whole life, and now you're this. And that honestly got to me. I just
that's a good one. That's good reinforcement. Yeah,
it got to me, and I remember coming back in the summer and not going to the gym as much, but eating the same. I'm like, hold up, now I need to cut down.
Yeah, and once you quit moving, you better slow down.
Yeah,
I know how that works. I've done the same thing. I blew up pretty big when kind of 2010. And that was my aha moment. I went to the doctor, and I'm 5'8" at the time, and they put that I was always 150, and that thing kept kind of going, and then she took that 150 and slid it over to 200, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I lost 40 pounds after that.
Wow.
And I've stayed pretty well fit since that time, because I was like, oh my gosh, and I was only probably, what would that have been? I'd have probably been about 44. But I was fat.
What'd you do to lose the weight?
Started working out every day. Started watching what I ate. But the problem was I started working out a lot. So you burn a lot of to lose weight. You got to be a negative calorie intake, right?
Yeah.
And the CrossFit was big at that time, and so I really got into that kind of stuff. And I was able to. I lost 40 pounds, and I can remember putting on a 40-pound vest after I'd lost that much weight, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I should never have been this big. But it was I just started taking better care of myself, and I did okay. So I was the guy that, work out and then drink, work out and then drink. And then eventually I started realizing that was probably not good. So I started cutting that back out. And then when I finally quit drinking, that's when everything changed. I was able just to cut weight, and I'm about 12% body fat now. So I'm in very good shape, but I have not missed a workout, in 2.5 years, 7 days a week. No matter where I'm at, like this morning, I got up and worked out. No matter where I'm at, I will work out.
So what do you think personally for your life? Like, how do you get to that point where you felt you were out of shape? The doctor's telling you need to cut back. What got you there? What do you think it was?
Mine was the weight thing. When I stepped on that scale, I've had multiple things. So there was that. And then I was really in good shape. I was working out. My mother-in-law actually told me I was fat at one point about 2.5 years ago. Cheryl always hates when I say that. And I didn't take it as a bad thing. Like, it was a good calling out at the time. I really wasn't, but I had put on a little bit of weight. And so that was the last straw. And then I was taking blood pressure medicine. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to get off of it because I could see the side effects. I was drooling, and I'm like, I'm a 60-year-old man drooling, and because the medicine messes with your everything. And, it's actually been 8 weeks ago, today, Tuesday? Yeah, Tuesday. 8 weeks ago yesterday, I've been on blood pressure medicine now. I got completely off.
Congratulations.
Because I ate good food. I kept working out, stay hydrated, all these type of things. All of this. Now my next one is I take an acid reflux medicine every other day. I've cut that in half. Now that's my next one. I'm getting completely off that. So I'm going to work really hard over the next year to get off that. So I will be on, other than the cholesterol, and then that's the next one. The guy that's helped me with that, that's the next one. And then at that point, I'll be on no medication at all.
So it'd be fair to say, easy to say, that habit completely changed the trajectory of your life?
From a physical standpoint. So when I wrote the book, again, I tell everybody, write a book. I've been this way my whole life. Mm-hmm. I've been very determined, very disciplined kid. I was always the kid that was running when other kids weren't. But it just flipped for me, unfortunately, really later in life. I had this ambition, this inner drive, but I never got all the phases put together really until I was about 60 years old. Actually, it was exactly 60. And I just was suddenly, it was clicked, and I'm like, all right, I can do this. And it took me all those years, to do that. I wished I would have started 40 years ago. I'd probably have a bigger plane. But I'm okay with that. But yeah, it just changed for me. And now I feel like I'm just, stronger, faster, and better than everybody else. And I don't mean that literally. I just know that if I have to, if the economy tanks and it's me and some other guy, I'm going to win because I'll outwork them. I'll do whatever I have to do. But it's taken me 60 years to get to that point. I had it, but I never believed it. Now I believe it. Like, I believe that I will beat you no matter what. No matter what. I will get up every day to beat you.
That's a reoccurring topic on my podcast, which I love because it helps me change my perspective as well. I see the difference in people when they just tell me, like, oh, I believe I'm this, I believe I'm that. A lot of people are BSing to me, and you see it throughout their actions. Mm-hmm. And then there's other people like yourself. Actually, my last episode that I have up, he's an up-and-coming streamer, and it's people that work towards it every day with that certainty, with that
consistency.
And I almost see it in their eyes. It's going to sound crazy sitting like people watching the video, but this is how you see your life, and there's no other thing that could happen pretty much in between. It's
for me now, especially even more, I joke about the $1 million and the dog and all this kind of stuff. But today at 62, I am more determined, more focused than I've been in 60 years. I am very determined. I have 9 grandchildren that I want to make sure they're okay. I feel I have an incredible amount of responsibility. Mm-hmm. It's not a burden. And I take it with pride. Like, I want to do whatever I have to do because, it's Les Brown, right? I'm the one. And I just believe in my heart now, without any doubt, I am the one. And so I have to do whatever I have to do to make sure that my entire family has an opportunity, not just Larry and Cheryl, no matter what.
Is there something you do every day that most people would never be willing to do?
Probably few, but I get up and work out every day, 7 days a week, no matter where I'm at, anywhere in the United States. I eat extremely healthy. I pray every single morning. I get in my sauna every day. I get in my cold plunge. I am willing to do whatever it takes every single day. And that is the beginning of my day, because the way I look at it is I see it as an advantage, right? I'm going to beat you. Well, I'm going to beat you because I'm up at 4. You're still asleep. So by the time you get up, get functional, get moving at 8 o'clock, have your first cup of coffee, I've been up for 4 hours. I've read 2 newspapers, been through my emails, checked all my bank stuff, et cetera. And I've done all this kind of stuff, sauna, reading my Bible, working out for an hour to 2 to 3 hours a day. Some days I'll go full on. And by the time you get to me, I have such a foundation built. You're not going to get to me. You will not beat me that day. But if I do that every day, then that means you can't beat me any day. And most people aren't willing to do that. They talk about it. Mm-hmm. But they're not willing to do it. And what I did, and I recommend to people, is just start one thing. Mm-hmm. What happens to everybody January 1st, right? Everybody gets in the gym and they're like, oh yeah, by February, the middle of February, it's empty because they try to do 15 things. Just try to do one thing. Like when I started working out 2.5 years ago, I could barely work out 10 minutes. I could do a pull-up. Now my regimens, I'll do 70, 80, 100 pull-ups. But it took me 2.5 years. So I started 10 minutes, then I finally got to 15, then I got to 20, and then I would start off with light weights and I got a little bit heavier. And then I just kept adding and adding and adding. And so you have these massive you have all these little wins that end up being a massive victory. And people just want to do everything at once. Just, you want to read a book? Well, start, right? Why? Everybody's like, oh, I'm going to start in July. Well, why? Let's start today. And mine was October, I think it was the same day I met Cheryl, was, 40 years later. October 22nd or 23rd is what I remember. Mm-hmm. That switch went. I've never missed a day. And that was 2.5 years ago. And that's just it. And I'm a very disciplined person. So once the switch comes off, like quitting drinking, like I quit drinking. I'm on a podcast. I'm talking to this guy, John Pucati, and he's like sober for 19 years. I'm literally sitting in this podcast. And I've been struggling, like, I think I need to quit this. And literally he goes, yeah, I haven't drank in 19 years. I've been sober, all this kind of stuff. I hear this voice, you will never drink again. And I've never drank. I hadn't been drinking before that, but I cut back, I hadn't drank in several days at that point because I never drank when I traveled. Mm-hmm. I've never drank since. And I didn't have I think I'm like, okay, I'll never drink. And I literally have never drank since that day. So, wow. And it was a day. It wasn't like I had to wait for February 1st or my anniversary or my kid's birthday or my dog's birthday. I'm like, if you're going to do it today. Don't just stop. Now, people all the time will say, oh, you have this ability. I'm like, do I? No, I just made the decision to do it and I'm going to do it. I don't need a date. I just need to stop now. And that's the same thing, getting up at 4 o'clock. I used to get up at 5. Mm-hmm. I saw this guy one day and I was like, I get up at 4. I'm like, I'm going to get up at 4. And since that day, I've gotten up at 4 every day, no matter where I'm at.
I think that's a perspective a lot of people miss. Mm-hmm. You don't know how much I hate that New Year's resolution.
I never do that.
It's such a joke. Like you said, if you want to change, the best time to change is now. Why set a date? I'm going to do this January 1st. If you want to read a book, open a book. I tell people all the time on this show, I wanted to start reading more because after I left college, I'm like, I don't need to read ever again. Thank God, I'm done. And then I hop on a podcast. I'm like, my speech is terrible. I need to start reading more, writing a little bit more. And I didn't just jump at it. Let's read a whole book in a day and then I'll be the smartest guy. I said, let's start with 5 pages. I'll just keep growing every day. Now I'm at the point where I'm reading 30, 40 pages. Sometimes I read 100 just because I love the book, but it didn't start that way. And same for the gym. I remember I hopped in the gym, bench pressing 10 pounds. I'm like, oh my goodness. Now I'm up at 2 plates. I would have never imagined it. At least that version of me would have never imagined it.
But it takes time.
A lot of time. If someone is stuck in life right now, what's the first thing you think they need to fix? Oh,
one thing? I would tell you start, whatever it is, right? It's interesting you talked about reading. I think just starting to get knowledge because I think we have such an advantage now that we have access to so much knowledge that I would encourage someone to find something like that and maybe just start focusing on it at that point, something simple, and just start, again, that small win, do something for 30 days. But whatever it is, the same thing, just start. When do you start? Today. That's what I tell everybody. And then that's what you need to do. And again, maybe it's just walking around the block, or maybe it's just, like you said, reading, maybe start reading the newspaper. Maybe don't watch TV every night. Maybe just sit down and be still. Go try to be still for 30 minutes. I pray in my sauna every day. I get 15 minutes in there. Do you know how hard it is to pray for 15 minutes? It is hard because your mind's like, oh, well, I got to do this. And then, okay, yeah, God. And then you're off here and all. But just, things like that. It doesn't have to be physical, just simple stuff. Read your Bible. I tell all my guys that come to my events at my house, I tell everybody the same thing. Just when you get up in the morning, put your feet on the ground and pray for 30 seconds. And then you've done some, don't do anything else the rest of the day. And just do that for 30 days. And then you can do something else. Just that doesn't take any response. And everybody knows when you get up. I think I've missed one day. And I remember I was halfway to the bathroom and I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't pray. So I stopped and went in the bathroom and there's a chair in there and I just sit there and prayed because I was like, oh my gosh, I felt bad. But I built this in my mind and you just start doing it. That's it. Just one thing, 30 days, whatever it is. Drink more water. It doesn't have to be that hard. Just something that starts building and it's a win. Get a win, a 30-day win. That's what we'll call it today.
So we've talked a lot about success during this episode. What does a successful life actually look like for you?
That when I'm gone, that somebody will remember me. Mm-hmm. That's it. Because in 3 generations, they say it's not even that. It's 1 generation. Someone else will live in this house. Someone else will own everything that you owned and stuff like that. My legacy for my grandkids and to give them a future. That's why I work so hard to try to make sure they're in this private school and all this kind of stuff, because that's the future. But it's really my grandkids and hopefully that they remember me for who I am, not all the crazy stuff and stuff like that, but just to leave a mark on society. Maybe it's do what's right. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's something like that. Maybe it's something to say, hey, marriage is hard, but he stuck with it for, 60 years, that kind of stuff. That's the stuff that really matters. It's the lasting stuff because the material stuff means nothing. Like there will literally none of this stuff. All the cars I've ever owned and own to this day will be gone. Mm-hmm. If I don't make it home tomorrow, every bit of that stuff will be gone in 60 days. You think about it, nobody's going to keep those cars, going to sell them. They need, stuff like that. And that people will remember you well. That it's something I learned recently, it kind of goes along with this, is every time a guy dies, the first thing you hear is, oh man, he was such a nice guy. I want people to tell me that before I die. I want people to know that I'm a nice guy, that I'm leaving something behind bigger than me. And maybe it's just my kindness, my ability to be honest with people and fair and humble. My greatest gift that I have is I have empathy. Mm-hmm. I can deal with people that are cleaning the floors to the CEO because they all matter to me. Their lives matter to me. Mm-hmm. And none of them are more important. Like I said earlier, right? If you're a jerk, I don't care what your job is or whatever. I'm not going to hang out with you. And I just want to kind of always be pushing that kind of thing. And this guy I met the other day on one of my podcasts, he said he had a servant's heart. And you think about that, you hear that biblically, right? But it's really like, well, maybe be nice to Megan today. Megan should smile at somebody because she's got a great smile. It might lift somebody's day. Asking somebody the right question today, Steve, that maybe brings joy to their life or something like that. That's the stuff that really matters. How many podcasts you and I do and what kind of cars we drive, they don't matter. Podcast might, because it's still going to be here digitally. So that's a good one. But, the other stuff doesn't matter. And it's the little stuff that counts. Mm-hmm. I build memories with my grandkids. That's what you want. You want your kid to be sitting there, my grandkids, 40 years from now with their grandkids going, yeah, I used to sit in the deer blind with my grandfather. That's incredible. That's powerful. That's a memory, right? That's the stuff they can't. Hence, write a book, write it down because those memories die with you. So, long answer, but yeah.
No, it's really cool to sit in front of you and get to hear your story, especially this portion, just to see how it all ties back to the beginning of the episode. You said, do what's right. Mm-hmm. Everything in that was pretty much a representation of you doing what's right. And it's just really cool to hear.
You try. And that's why forgive yourself early and often when you mm-hmm. don't do it right. So you get an opportunity. Grandkids are a joy because you get to do things different. Mm-hmm. I was the guy that was walking the beach on the phone when my kids were swimming. You know, I don't do that now with my grandkids. You know, I take the time, be present, right? And that's hard, especially for entrepreneurs, because our minds are always thinking about other stuff, right? As soon as we break here, we're all going to be looking at our phones, checking emails, doing that kind of stuff. And it sucks it out of you. So
If your 18-year-old self could see you right now, what couldn't he believe?
that he made it. Yeah, for sure. I had a lot of demons, you know. I mean, I was a rough kid, kind of did some crazy stuff, but I always had this inner side of me. But yeah, that I actually did do as well as I thought. You know, it's a funny story. I don't think I've ever shared this with anybody, at least on the public airways. My senior year in high school, they get up there at the prom and they say, you know, what is Larry Dix going to be doing when he's 50 years old? Mine was own a brewery, because I drank and did all this crazy stuff and like that. And then here I am now, 45 years later, don't drink, got a business, successful. My two best friends that I grew up with in high school are both dead. They went down that path. I chose differently, met the right girl at the right time, you know, things like that. But yeah, I think I'd be a little surprised at probably 18 for sure. I think by the time, there's a great story that I talk to people about. I'm 17 years old. I graduate from high school. I walk across the stage. The first thing I do is I open up the booklet where my diploma is, and I made sure it was signed by the superintendent and the principal. I graduate 142 out of 147. I go to work the next morning after graduating high school. I see my father graduate from college when I'm 12. Well, I'm not going to college. It's a little bit of a disappointment, right? There was a lot of emphasis on this. My dad was the first kid to ever graduate from college in his entire family. I'm walking across this sports complex where I was managing the baseball fields. And one of my dad's friends comes up to me and he goes, "Hey, Larry, how you doing today?" I'm like, "Great." You know, it's a nice kid. I talked to him, like Megan, just this young kid, just being nice to someone, being respectful to an older person. And he was in his 40s, so he was old as dirt at that point. And he looked at me and we chatted for a little bit. And he said, "Larry," he goes, "I just wanted you to know something." He goes, "I think you're the dumbest." He called me an MFer to my face for not going to college. And I remember that like it was yesterday. And I can remember walking away from that man saying, "I will make more money than you ever made." And I carried this as almost a grudge, right? But it was either defeated or inspired, right? So I chose to make it an inspiration. So I use that as my inner channel to constantly. So 21, youngest outside salesman in the history of the company, 26 years old, running a manufacturing facility, 29, building a manufacturing facility, 36, entrepreneur, started my own manufacturing company. All these things. I write this book, and then suddenly I look back and I go, God, I wish I could shake his hand. What a gift, right? He gave me, he called me that to my face, but I took the opportunity to be either defeated or inspired. I chose to be inspired. And that's what I did. And so I encourage everybody, thinking about that kind of stuff, you're going to get your butt kicked. Everybody in this room has had it already, and we're still young. And I tell people that, and that's where, looking back now, even at 17, did I know I was going to make it? I didn't know. But I did. And that one guy right there, I think his name was Steve. I never can remember his name. My dad still remembers him. And, he changed the trajectory possibly of my entire life. That one guy. And I already had all this ambition, right? I had this stuff. I had this discipline, had all this stuff. But that guy, tell me, why would he tell me that? Maybe God put him there for that moment to say, all right, you need to get your act together, because I was a little rambunctious doing probably some stuff I shouldn't have been doing. And it just kind of like, then when I got that job at Strickland Blake, it was like I was a yard dog, and then, which is the lowest job in the company, to outside salesman in 21 years, literally in 3 years. And it was just, but then next thing you know, I'm working for guys that have college degrees, and then suddenly they're working for me because on time is late. Show up, attitude, effort, put it in. They ask you to go do something, you do it with a good attitude. Don't, well, that ain't my job, but you still do it anyway, right? It's all about attitude and effort, and just be willing to do what other people are not willing to do. And that's a big factor. This guy, Joe Tamarchio, great guy, called Mr. Tire. He said he could tell an entrepreneur if they were, or a guy or a gal, if they were an entrepreneur, if he would ask them to take the trash out.
Really?
Mm-hmm. He said if they picked it up, said yes, sir, and went out and did it with a good attitude, he knew they had what it take. If they didn't have it and they said, oh, they'd shrug, or, you could just kind of tell they were defeated, like, this ain't my job, he knew that wasn't the right person. Something as simple as that, right? Mm-hmm. Attitude. Attitude can cure a lot of things. Not arrogance, right? Mm-hmm. Attitude.
I love that perspective, and it's funny, just because the first thing I thought of for some reason was anytime I have 2 siblings, anytime my parents asked them to do something as small as taking out the trash, they were always arguing, and then I was the one that I'd rather get it done, not have an argument, and get it done happy. Taking out the trash takes 5 seconds. How's it hindering your day? And I'm helping out my mom, making it easier for her. But I guess that's why I took the entrepreneurship route versus my siblings.
Yeah, you probably have the right attitude. You've got the skill set. You've mm-hmm. got a little bit of a sales personality. So you got a good smile. You got a good attitude. I mean, man, attitude's a factor. You always heard the only thing you have control of is your attitude. Well, it's actually your attitude and your effort. Mm-hmm. And when you combine the two together, they're pretty unstoppable.
I have 2 final questions mm-hmm. since we're running short on time. What would your advice be to me, a 26-year-old entrepreneur?
Well, okay. Don't get stuck in thinking this is what you're going to do today, mm-hmm. like it's going to be your job in 20 years. Have a plan today, but be willing to pivot. Mm-hmm. If you'd have told me that I was going to run it, I wanted to be a business guy, right? Didn't have a clue. I went down the path. I got into manufacturing. I was really good at it. That's where my opportunity lied, and that's when I took it. I didn't get stuck like I wanted to, own a hat manufacturer, or I wanted to do this, or I wanted to do podcasting or write books or be a pilot. I just went with what opportunities gave themselves to me, and then I would focus on that. And if it pivoted and I could see it going forward, like getting to the next spot, like if it's a move you closer or farther away from your goal, like my goal was to make money. So I didn't have something like, oh, this is what I was going to do. I just said, so every time an opportunity came, I would pivot. And then maybe it takes me back over here and it takes me back over here, but constantly be willing to do things that take you closer to your goals and not farther. So that's what I would tell you right now. Because if you get stuck like, oh, I'm only going to be a podcaster, you may not, that may mess you up. I mean, you may be a sports announcer. You may be somebody that does voiceovers for commercials, mm-hmm. I mean, because you got a great voice, or maybe it's in the landscaping business because somebody goes, wow, you really did a nice job on your plant, your garden out here for your parents. Could you come do it for me? And then you started feeling you're good. I mean, pivot. Mm-hmm. That's it, man. I mean, just be willing to do whatever you got to do, and just be willing to pivot to go in the right direction, whatever that is. And it may be a U-turn, but yeah.
Would you say there's anything I need to improve on as a podcaster?
Well, you've got the best studio I've ever been to, so that's for darn sure.
You.
No, I think you're doing really good. I think you're very organized, which is mm-hmm. a really great thing. I'm not very organized, as I can speak for myself. Mm-hmm. So there's 2 options. The greatest interviewer was what's his name? Larry King. Mm-hmm. What made him a great interviewer, and this is the direction I've been following, is I don't spend a lot of time reading about the person I'm going to interview because I want everything to be fresh. I want it to almost be a surprise for me, so I get excited about that stuff. So if you get too much where you read too much about people, it may get too choreographed and too locked in, but be willing to be flexible and say, like I said, going down a path and then take it. And that's what they say Larry King was really, really good at, is he was the greatest interviewer because he never had any like automatically fixed questions. Now, I'm sure he asked the same questions a lot of times, mm-hmm. but I think he had just an incredible thirst of just understanding everybody's journey. And that's what we talked about, you and me, like, what do you do? And I'm like, well, I just want to hear about your journey, because everybody finds it's entrepreneurs. It's hard. Everybody struggles making payroll. Everybody runs out of money. Their greatest idea, they were going to make a bunch of money, was the worst idea. I mean, we all go through that same type of stuff. So that's what I would tell you. Study Larry King. I thought he was a pretty interesting fella,
Thank you. I definitely will take a look at Larry King. I just wanted to wrap it up and say thank you so much for your time.
Thanks.
This has been super cool interview. I loved it. Very insightful too. I could already tell this is going to be one of those interviews I watch probably 10 or 12 times just to
hopefully we can get a bunch of people to do it for us, and they come on and watch the Born or Made podcast for me. And,
Heck
you know,
yeah.
we both, maybe between the two of us, we can get a little bit of a boost. Cause I mean, mine's doing okay, but yeah, I can tell you what, nobody's been writing me any checks either, by the way.
Yeah, year one, honestly, for me, it's been doing amazing. This time last year, I had 0 people watching me. So to have over 1,000 subscribers, 1,000 Instagram followers, have clips that have done over 1 million views, I couldn't be any happier.
Yeah, I don't have any that big, that's for sure. I haven't hit that one yet. You've gotten some good guests then, because I have not been able to get that big. I don't know why, but I'm going to keep trying.
I could always look at your stuff too and see if there's anything I think that could be
I'd
changed.
love to hear.
Yeah.
I'll take anything at this point. Probably some of it is I need to get me a really cool studio. I've got a great place where I do mine is in a barn. It's my car barn, but it's not this cool. Because I do Zoom so much, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're doing all of yours in person.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's huge. Yeah, I've got to figure out. That's why I'm doing more in Stanford, just to try to, because you just get better quality everything.
I think Zoom, my issue with Zoom is it's hard for me to stand out because they'd see this small of a space I'm in, you know? So if I'm not having too many listeners already, why would they watch my Zoom versus somebody who already has 10 million subscribers? So I think for my personal platform, Zoom would probably do better for me once I already have an audience and they're going to listen regardless. For now, this is my selling point, you know, maybe.
Well, and people see it and they see this and they, oh, okay. They remember, they see that because they do see what's behind you. Mine's a little, you know, so like you said, a small window, and I just don't think you. That's why we're changing too.
That's sick. Once again, thank you for your time.
Yeah,
I don't want to
thanks,
hold you up too much.
No, great. Appreciate it very much. I'll come back anytime. I'm up here at least once every month or two, so I'd be happy to come on and we can continue these conversations.
Let's do it. I think we definitely need to.
All right. Sounds great. Thanks.
Thank you.